What's up, guys? It's your host, Spartanic Arts DXD, back with another high school DXD related video. And today we have What If Issei Left Part 9. I just want to thank everybody for the support. And if you guys want to know exactly what my upload schedule is and what, when I upload things like that, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button. And if you're in the premiere, it's also the first link that's pinned and will be the first link down in the description below. So just go ahead and become a channel member. That would be absolutely amazing. I really would appreciate that. Also, as I have somewhat of an announcement to make really quick, and it's really important, so hopefully you stay tuned with it. So yeah, so thank you lots and lots for the support. I really do appreciate it. But so the author of this story had a message for me. I would like to go over it with everybody else because he obviously was in extreme distress about it. So basically, people like me who read his stories, the author of Skim Reader 07, by the way. I apologize. I just keep forgetting. I can't remember off the top of my head. He is Skim Reader 07, by the way. He made this story called The Red Dragon Conqueror, and that is the story that I call What If Issei Has Left currently. So, basically had trouble with a YouTuber named, let me go back and see this really fast. He had trouble with a fan fiction YouTuber who is blatantly saying that was his story and all these things considering, you know what I mean? And he was basically just saying that, right? And the problem was, obviously, is because this guy is blatantly stealing his videos or blatantly stealing his story and doesn't give him any credit. And he allows me to read this story because I credit him and put his link in the description, obviously, like that, because, well, he's the one who wrote the story. And the main issue that we have here is that people like that should not be allowed on YouTube. You cannot take somebody's story and do that. And I'm going to say this very seriously. I would never take somebody else's story and not credit them in the first place. So unfortunately, Skim Reader was going through that right, and he was obviously very upset, and I completely understood what he was going through because I've also had the same thing happen to me before, as well as, you know what I mean. So obviously, if he was debating whether to private the story or not, and yeah, this is the main problem that we are facing right now. So yeah, go support Skim Reader 07 and do help. Let me look at something really fast. The YouTuber's name is Fanfictions What Ifs, and this guy has been obviously blatantly not only copying a story, but he doesn't leave any credit in the description below either. So as a YouTuber, I can't tell people to go flag this guy or anything like that because that would be against the terms of service. But I do want to tell you something right now that should not be allowed on YouTube. And he did say that he would manage to get some of the videos taken down. So shout out to him. But please go support the author. He's an absolute legend. Like, seriously, though. And without further ado, I'm going to thank my balance breakers. Aunt Lewis, Lachlan Yates, Jordan Patchout, Night Ammo, Refeek135, Slow, the Black Dragon Emperor, Keep Saying 21, $5 Sake, Fear with hashtag 2347, XRX108, Ziki 2000, Liliana Gorko, Chaotic Raven, Selvix, Mazaku, Dr. MG is the bomb, Ryuga, Beta Joe 98, Source Spawner, and Grimfire Shot Gamers. Thank you so much for becoming a balance breaker. And remember to go subscribe to my second channel, and Popowski, about to hit 60,000 subs, and it says 94% of you aren't subscribed, so you should totally hit the sub button. Let's try to hit 500 to 600 likes, and without further ado, Spartanic Arts DXD into part 9. Picking back up where we left off in chapter 17, we're almost done with it, so let's go ahead and continue. Preparing for potential trouble, did you forget about how many admirers you had? Safita says. As you wish, Sofita-sama, Clara says, standing off to the side for the two men to pass. Lord Promine says, as he strode past the maid. The two men approached the two women at the table in the garden. Hello, Julius. Claus, Sofita says. Julius starts. Hello, Sophia. You look beautiful today, trying to be respectful, even though he was fuming inside. Sophia only frowned at his tone, since he could tell that the respect was being forced. What brings you here? Sophia says, swirling her spoon in tea. Nothing to do with you. We've come to talk to Seraphal, Julius says. Oh, well, she's right here, Sophia says, pointing to Seraphal. Hello, Julius. Her tone was serious, wanting to know why Pim and Clan was here. Well, look what we have here. Look who we have here. The one who is no longer a virgin speaking with mockery, Julius says. What are you talking about? Serafal replies, oh, nothing. Only that you dare to decline my son's offer of commitment, and then you are going to wallow with somebody nobody. How low have you fallen? Julius says. Serafal released an immense amount of rage at Julius. It was so great that it surprised Serafal herself, but she didn't show it. Sophia was also surprised and looked at the interest of what Serafal was going to do. Tell me who was the cockroach that you chose when he doesn't even reach my heels, Claus says. That does not concern them, Serafal says, becoming very annoyed. Please tell me. I would like to know what he has that made you choose him over me, Claus says, stepping forward and losing his arrogance, figuring that it was the best way to get the way of answer out of her. Serafal looked at Claus. She could see that he toned down his arrogance, probably because she released more of her aura, but she calmed down as she didn't want to cause a tantrum, but if she wanted to, she could freeze them. First of all, he doesn't have your arrogance, and his name is Issei, omitting the last name because she didn't want to associate Issei to them, but you may know him as the Oppai Dragon or the Sekiryuutei. So you joined his harem, ha, Julius says. Father, Claus replied, turning to the man and giving him a glare and told him to shut up. Julius saw his son's glare and kept quiet. He knew of his son's power. I find it hard to believe. But if what you say is true, why is he so pale? Claus says, I heard the man that you were with was someone that was sickly pale. The appearance does not match the Sekiryuutei's appearance. He has lightly tanned skin, so what happened to him? Claus says. Serafal could see that Claus was now being genuine and seemed wanted to know about Issei, so she calmed down and spoke. He was sick and dying because of a curse, for your information. No, I did not join his harem. He doesn't have one anymore, Serafal replies. Claus and Julius' eyes widened at that statement and didn't want to believe it. That's preposterous, Julius says. If he had split, everyone would have heard about it. He's the damn pillar of the factions, Julius says. Sophia could see in her daughter's eyes that he turned to the two men. I think you should sit down, Sophia replied, moving over to sit closer to her daughter. The two men did as Sophia asked and was wanted to know what happened. Since this is going to go public soon, might as well tell you, but Rias Gremory, her Parage, Ravel Phoenix, the reincarnated angel Irina Hyoudou, and Katri Piomian, the Seraph Gabriel, and any other fiancé he cheated on with him as their so-called rival. The male members of her Parage, my sister's Pawn, and Katri is Zazel, Serafal says. Now the jaws of the two men dropped. They could not believe it. The hero was betrayed by the ones that claimed to love him, but Claus remembered something that Serafal said earlier. Serafal-san, you admitted from saying the Sekiryu's surname. Why? Claus said. Because the Hyoudou knew of the infidelity against their son, and said nothing. Adding on, the girls lied about his achievements to make it seem as if he was a low-class demon, Serafal said. Low class? As if he was low class, Julius says. Have you seen her Parage members? That none of hers is low class. She could never do anything like she did, nothing in their fight against Sarah. They had the audacity to claim him as a low class. He exploded as he stood up. He had respect for Issei, and to learn that he was betrayed made him furious, Julius was. Sit down, Julius, Serafal says, glaring at him. Now let me explain everything from the top. As she began to explain what she saw in Issei's memories when she showed them in the meeting of how Issei had left to perform a ritual to alleviate himself from his curse. Julius and Claus were stunned to hear that Issei went through, how he wanted to kill himself, but seemed to overcome it, since he left to remove his curse. Stupid humans, Julius says. I am actually glad Great Red made him a new body. Now he has nothing to tie himself to them. Angry at the Hyoudou, before he turned to Serafal and stood up and took a bow. Serafal saw Sophia sigh, I am sorry for my attitude. I had no right to accuse you from not understanding the situation. I accused the Sekiryuu. I hope to meet him and sorry for judging your relationship, Julius says. You had no knowledge of the situation, which is understandable, but don't do it again, or there will be consequences. Her eyes seemed to glow light blue, as she released an icy aura, which caused them both men to sweat. I understand, Julius says, gulping in fear of his life. I suppose the Gremory and Phoenix clans are aware of this, to which the two women nodded. Then we shall cut ties with them, Claus said. I advise you not to do that, Serafal replied. Why not? Claus says they should be accused of treason for betraying the pillar. That damn Mal Lucifer should lose his position because of the whore of a sister, Claus says. The Gremory and the Phoenix clans only knew of this because Issei told them. They had no knowledge of the infidelities. Since we have been dealing with the losses from the war, none of us knew that they did this to him. Issei also does not hold grudges against the two clans for what their daughters did. He even sees the Gremory portraits as his parents and called them his mother and father before he left, Serafal says. Were they screwed up with one child? They made it up for with a better one. Since it may upset him, we will not cut ties to Gremory and Phoenix clans. And to add on, for my negligence, I would like to assist in sponsoring your sister's school. I know we also looked down on the low-class demons, but the Sekiryuutei provided otherwise. So if there's a need, we will vouch for the approval of her school. Thank you for the time, and sorry for disturbing you. Standing up and leaving the garden, not hearing if they told him goodbye or not. He was already embarrassed by his actions and just wanted to leave. Still full of hot air, I see, watching Julius walk away. I'm afraid so, and so am I, turning his gaze back to women. You're right, he certainly has no arrogance compared to me. I am still upset by what the Red Dragon Emperor went through, and frankly, I believe that the Hirakako is no better than his grandfather. It seems the Lucifer lineage is only meant to cause problems for everyone. My father thinks the same. He just didn't want to say it. I could tell he's fuming right now. It's seeking you to earn our respect. We hope to be on good terms with him, and our actions today backtracked that. I asked for your forgiveness for disturbing your time. When the Sekiryuutei returns, I would like to apologize to him as well. I should have known better than to go after a dragon's woman. Claus finishes. It's alright, Claus, Seraphol says. She was hoping that her other admirers didn't pull a stunt like this, but they do hope they are understanding as Claus, Seraphol says. I am really happy for you, though, Claus says. I hope the man that would have made you have been me. He put a sad smile on his face. It just hurt to let you go. But you found someone better. I hope that Gremory understands this. She is known to be quite spoiled, Claus says. She will, whether she wants to or not, Seraphol says, her eyes giving off a slight glow. Sophia smirked at her daughter's reaction. Well, I'll do my best to snuff these rumors. I wouldn't want the Gremory Harris to hear about this and accuse you for something you did no wrong in, Claus said. Thank you, Claus. As I said, we will be letting the public know about this, and we will have a meeting to handle any punishment that we may see fit, Seraphol says. If I may ask, may I come to this meeting? Claus says. I'd like to see the Red Dragon Emperor's memories myself. It's not that I don't trust you, but I would like to experience what's transpiring through his own eyes, Claus said. I understand, Seraphol replies. Thank you for your time. I am sorry for my intrusions, Miss Clara. Sorry to you as well for addressing more stress than you needed. Apologizing to the maid well, Claus said. It's all right, Clara said, with a slight blush because the man was charming. Take care of yourself, Claus, Seraphol says. Claus gave a nod to the Mao and walked out of the garden to leave the mansion as well. You handled that quite well, Sophia says, impressed by how Seraphol took care of the situation. This is going to be difficult. Seraphol says, nobody said maturity will be easy, Sophia says. Now, in an unknown location. Scene change. In a dark lair, there were footsteps of a person walking until they reached a metal door and opened it quickly and entered the room, where there was someone seated in a chair. My lord, it has been confirmed that the Maos met. So they have gathered together, the man sitting in the chair responded. Yes, my lord and the Mao Leviathan seem to have met with the Pieman clan, and they intruded on our castle. Nothing more came after that. I see. That doesn't seem important, but the Maos have not even thought about what's happening, smiled wickedly my lord. What is going? How's it going? How is that going? Still nothing. More, still nothing. My damn father caused the faction to eliminate all of the parts of the organization. He lost Ko and his team. The descendants of the ancient Maos are either dead or deserted, and the evil dragons died in battle. The exception being Cromcrunch. Seriously, almost everything was destroyed for a plan that did not go anywhere. Even used his soul to try to achieve his goal. But that didn't work. He rose from his chair. But he is still my father. Even if he believed he killed me, but I have some remorse for his death. As he walked towards a large glass tube with green liquid, but I never said that I would help you if you failed, right, Tosun? Looking at was inside the tube. Yes, my lord, you have no reason to help him, Morose says, becoming cheerful and psychotic. Inside the tube was a dark green liquid, but inside it looked like a human body, but it was missing its right arm, left leg, and large parts of meat all over the torso. This piece of meat was none other than Rizavim Lyavin Lucifer. For I, Rizavim Lucifer, will take charge and do everything in my own way, and you will be one of my guinea pigs. Laughing evilly alongside Moro, who laughed with him. And that is the end of chapter 17. Chapter 18. Same day, Sunday with Issei. So, scene change, now we're with Issei again. Complaining as he woke up from a long sleep. This sucks. Issei says, trying to get up without success. Issei was in complete darkness once again. There was no noise except his breathing or attempts to do something. Issei gave up and decided to wait for his body to wake up completely to try to do something. While time passed, Issei just reflected, lying on the ground. Going from the hero's factions. One of the strongest existence to a person who can't even stand up. Man, I'm pathetic. I'm even worse than I started. Wait, I feel sad. My feelings are coming back. Yes, Issei says. After waiting about 20 minutes, Issei began to struggle to get up, making a lot of effort to sit up. Come on, I can't stay down all day, Issei says, putting more strength and standing up completely. Then he took his first step and fell to the ground again, and when he did, he ended up bruising his jaw and busting his nose. Ugh! Groaning as he returned over his back and his ground while squeezing his bleeding nose. Issei writhed until the pain subsided, but the bleeding didn't stop. How pathetic, Issei says, sitting up from the ground, removing one of his hands from his nose and feeling that it had a lot of blood in it. Dying from a nosebleed. How poetic and ironic. Sarcasm was laced into his voice. Issei sighed, seeing the darkness, while his nose did not stop bleeding. Then Issei heard a noise, and from his right, when he turned, and he found someone. Huh? Have I gone crazy? What are you doing here? Sarah-chan, seeing that his betrothed was there with him. What are you doing on the ground? Seraphal says, tilting her head in confusion. Seraphal means astral Seraphal, just for a note. I can't get up. Can't you see? Issei says. That's why you don't do anything. Do you want to go back to where you were? As she bent down to his level, remaining on her heels, wearing the outfit that Issei last saw on her. You do not know that I can see your panties, right? Issei says, looking up at her legs, considering the slit on her skirt allowed to see what was underneath from what was laying. You've already seen me naked, and we've gone over 50 rounds of sex. But if showing them to you will make you stand up or do something, I'll show them to you, shrugging off his comment, not having much care for her modesty. I mean, I didn't like that. Sitting up with difficulty, standing up from the ground, it's just that others could see him giving her a small smile. Well, now you can't see them, referring to his standing position, so what are you doing? Getting up and looking into Issei's eyes. I don't know, but we'll figure it out, Issei says. Well, good luck, as she began to disappear. His eyes showed a flash of sadness. Bye. Why are you sad? You know I'm in your imagination, so what's wrong? Seraphal says, catching that last flash of sadness in his eyes, before she was still fading. Well, putting his hand on Seraphal's cheek because I won't be able to see you for a long time, real or imaginary. I won't be able to do it, putting on a sad smile. Then hurry up, finish your training and come back to me as she continues to fade. Oh, and find some trustworthy people. I don't like that you're alone out there, Seraphal says. I'll try, Issei says as Seraphal disappeared. His face held a sad look. Issei was once again alone in that darkness. Now she was gone, and Ddraig was asleep from the ritual, and assimilating the new power to combine with the boosted gear. Issei was not going to let the sadness consume him with determination in his eyes. He began to take a few steps very carefully and get a slight of his legs. Okay, Issei says. He began to walk little by little, and stretched his arms to feel if there were an obstacle in his way. Little by little, Issei walked towards what he thought was the door to the oasis, since Drake's cave was within an oasis where time was different. However, time was normal within the cave. Damn, I wish I could meet the mage that helped build all this. Definitely wish I could take him with me, Issei says. Now, in the human world, apartment of Sona and Tsubaki. So scene change. Sona opened her eyes to see the ceiling, but she also felt a weight on her side. Curious, she turned to see what was there, and it turned out to be Tsubaki, who seemed to have a nightmare because her eyes shed tears. Oh, that's right. Yesterday, she came to my room and talked to me and ended up crying most of the night, until we fell asleep. She whispered to herself, what a pain. It's 7:30, a bit later than what I'm used to. Oh well, I better wake her up and get her out of the nightmare, Sona says. Sona nudged Tsubaki's shoulder a little until she started to wake up. What happened? Tsubaki says, confused as she saw Sona. Good morning, Tsubaki, Sona said. Sona-sama, why are you in my bed? Tsubaki replied. Tsubaki, look around you. With a small smile, amused by Tsubaki's reaction, Tsubaki looked around the whole room, and from the moment to where she blushed and covered herself with sheets, which confused Sona. Tsubaki? Sona said, Sona-sama, what did I do to you? It can't be that I have kind of perverted side, Tsubaki said, stuttering rapidly. Sona tilted her head in confusion, but then the realization of what Tsubaki said caused a small blush to appear on her face. Oh my god, Tsubaki, nothing happened, so don't think about those things. As she tried to make take off the sheet off Tsubaki. Seriously, we're not even naked. How could she even think that? A small sweat drop appearing on the side of her head. Sona-sama, I'm sorry. You were saving your purity, but you no longer have it. It's all my fault, Tsubaki said. She screamed back and front for the control as she went with Sona. Tsubaki, listen to me. Nothing happened, so relax. We're not even naked, Sona says, putting more strength to remove the sheet from Tsubaki. What? Tsubaki says, becoming confused as a result. She lost strength in her pull and her arms becoming slack. However, due to the force exerted by Sona in her pull, the loss of the strength by Tsubaki, Sona pulled not only the sheet but also Tsubaki, causing both to end up falling on the ground as Tsubaki landed on Sona. Ouch, what? She rubbed her hand from hitting the ground, falling backwards before looking up to see Tsubaki's face very close to hers. She had caught herself but didn't know what to do as she could see Sona's face up close. Both remained silent as they looked at each other, each with a blush on their faces, and they held each other's gaze, but were interrupted by a person who had appeared in a room by a magical circle. I knew your sister wanted to be close to you, but guess she was not the woman you envisioned being with. There was a small amusement in her tone as this scene of Sona and Tsubaki on the floor, wrapped in a sheet and staring at her. Grafia-san, it's not what it seems, Sona says. She was extremely nervous as she saw Grafia in the room. Yes, you're quite mistaken, Tsubaki says, just as nervous as the two to untangle themselves and quickly stand up. Well, it seems I interrupted something. Proceeding to walk to the door. When they finish, don't forget to take a bath, leaving room in Sona and Tsubaki looking like tomatoes. Calling after her, but they could reach her. They tripped over the sheet and fall to the ground again as Grafia closed the door to give them privacy. Minutes later, I see. It seems I understood the situation in many ways. While drinking tea, after Sona and Tsubaki gave her an explanation of why they were in the position that she found them in. Yes, what brings you here? Sona says. Sarah-san wants to see you, Grafia replies. You mean Sarafal-sama? It's not like you called by her full name. A bit confused by the nickname that she was given. Well, it's difficult to explain. It's better that you see it for yourselves, Grafia says, a little uncomfortable of how Sona would take it. And why, and when does she want to see me? Sona says, right now. She's a bit upset, so she wants to talk to you as quickly as possible. Grafia says, upset? Sona / Tsubaki say at the same time. You'll see, standing up from the chair, making a magic circle to transport them, Grafia does. I guess so, Sona says, a little nervous about her sister's attitude. Underworld in the Leviathan Mansion. Sona and Tsubaki and Grafia appear in front of the door of the Sarafal's office, but they quickly notice what was just getting a little closer. They felt an incredible chill. It was as if they were in a freezer. What is going on here? Trembling from the cold, Tsubaki says. Oni-sama is more than just a little upset, trembling like Tsubaki Sona was. It appears so, Grafia says. She spoke unaffected by the cold. Sona and Tsubaki looked at her in disbelief, but remembered that she also trained in ice magic, as well as she was able to use these temperatures. They watched as she strode forward and knocked on the door. Who is it? Sarafal says. I said today I didn't want any guests, hearing the knock, clearly annoyed by reviewing some papers. Sarah-sama, it's me. I brought Sona and Tsubaki as you requested. Oh, it's you, Grafia. You may pass, but hurry, I have work to do. In her eyes, as she sheets out in front of paper in front of her. The three of them cautiously entered the office and saw Sarafal focused on her work and a mountain of papers. Oh, Oni-sama, what is that you wanted to speak with me about? Sona said. She was still trembling from freezing temperatures and could see that they were coming from her sister. She was a bit stunned by her appearance, but didn't focus on much because of the cold. Oh, sorry. I let a little out of my freezing aura, Sarafal said, looking up when he heard her sister's chattering teeth and decreased her aura, which thawed the room and warmed it back up. Much better, Tsubaki says, she said quietly, enjoying the warmth coming back into the room. So what is it you wish to speak with me about, Oni-sama? Still a bit confused as her summons, but also her sister's new look. First, have a seat, gesturing to the couches in the office, Sarafal did. Sona and Tsubaki noticed the rare behavior of Sarafal because he did not narrow herself. Sona, nor she was speaking cheerfully. She spoke with sense of calmness, but also seriousness, but not to endure her aura again. Both that they were told without question and sat on the couch. Grafia-san, help me. Serafal says. Understood, Grafia says as she walked around the desk behind Serafal. Onisama, what do you need help with? Sona says. She began to speak until she saw how Serafal was in a wheelchair being pushed by Grafia. Onisama slash Serafal, Sama standing up from the couches. Quiet. This will also be explained, Serafal says with a wave of her hand, not caring about their yelling. What happened, Onisama? Who did that to you? With a tone of death. Was it an enemy? Tsubaki says. Serafal blinked at their reactions and then proceeded to laugh, as did Grafia, which caused the two younger women to be between to understand what was going on. Once she got it out of her system, Serafal popped an arm and on her armrest, a wheelchair and placed on her head and popped up in her arm, leaning forward with a small smile on her face. Oh, so you're going to kill your brother-in-law, Serafal says, amused by her sister's action. Brother-in-law, Sona says, as her jaw dropped and her glass became a little crooked on her face. That can't be, Tsubaki says, covering her mouth in shock. There's no other way to say it, Grafia says, amused by Serafal's response. Well, yes, but this was the fastest. How is it possible, Sona says. It's possible. But that is not the reason I called you here. You see, dear sister, there's something you have to do, turning a sharp look to Sona. Sona swallowed nervously about what she was about to be asked to do. After the explanation, I refuse. I do not intend to help her, Sona says, standing up and glaring back at her sister, who stared calmly back. It's true. Wouldn't it be better to let them spread it, Tsubaki says, in agreement with her king. Oh, so it seems that you are wrong on something. She held her sister's gaze as she began to eat a cookie, Serafal did. Huh? And what's that? Sona replied. It's not a petition. It's an order, looking at Sona with emotionless eyes. Sona, Tsubaki, and even Grafia were stunned by Serafal's gaze. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this. Letting out a little sigh, giving an apologetic look to those in the room. Boni-sama, why should this be done? Sona said, recovering from her shock and returning to with a serious tone. Because it is somewhat of a request from Issei, but it is the best for the alliance. As you know, Issei cannot be treated as a normal person because apart from being the pillar of the factions, he is the hero of the supernatural world. And if other factions found out what happened prematurely, it could be catastrophic. As you saw from Issei's memories, the Hyoudou kept calling him a low-class demon, which is clearly a lie. Considering that he was promoted to mid-class demon after the raiding game against Sauerorg, it's no surprise that the girls lied to them about his status to make them more susceptible to their infidelity. Unfortunately, Michael is testing something for the angels, which is probably what allowed that reincarnated angel and Gabriel to commit a sin. We know that the ringleader is obviously Ria, since Issei loved her the most, so it is very unlikely she convinced them. Not surprising as both of them were quite naive, Serafal finishes. Sona listened to the deduction of her sister and allowed her to continue on what the girls lying had to do with it. So think, if they were to find out that they have been caught, they would use those same lies to save themselves, possibly claiming that we are lying. Since the other factions don't know what has happened, they could possibly side with them, so that you have to deal with this issue until the meeting. Don't let them be suspicious, of course. You can let out a few rumors mill around and try to contain them, and considering that your own pawn is one of her lovers, she will try to ask about him, possibly use excuses for his whereabouts. Don't let them be reminded of Issei. Not yet. At least, Serafal says. You're right, Rias is quite deceptive, and she uses her body as a weapon. It would not be surprising of how Hyoudou would fall for her charms, and not listen to their morals. From Issei's gossip with my soon-to-be former pawn, Goro Hyoudou is a pervert himself, and Miki Hyoudou helped create naked aprons for Rias and Azia. They're so hypocritical, but I think that I can keep this a secret for at least a month. After that, it cannot be avoided, becoming serious about the ordeal, and at least she would not admit it out loud. She was enjoying this animalistic side of her. It seems that so unusual so has returned, with a smile confident in her sister's ability to run the school and keep the girls at bay for the time being. Onisama, since we ended with this topic, can we talk about the other? With a little blush, but still kept her focus on her sister. Oh, and what would that be? Serafal says, raising an eyebrow in confusion. It has to do with you're in a wheelchair and his brother-in-law, Tsubaki says. Exactly, readjusting her glasses, Sona said. Serafal looked at a surprise, and you didn't think they would ask about it. Oh, I see, Serafal says, so who is it? It was Issei, and a nonchalant answering about that, and looked with a wave of her hand, shrugging her shoulders. Oh, Sona and Tsubaki, eyes widening in surprise. Serafal looked it back only to see Sona and Tsubaki completely frozen in shock. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything. With a drop of sweat beside her head, Serafal is. I agree, with a drop of sweat of her own, Grafia says. Currently, now we're in heaven near Michael's office. There was a blonde who walked to Michael's office. His name was Dulio, the strongest exorcist, the captain of the team of DXD. He was a little confused because Michael called him without reason. So, he went without asking anything, but he turned the corner, so was surprised to find Griselda Corda, the queen of Gabriel's deck and the guardian of the Duandal wielder Zenobia. "Oh, hello, Griselda. How are you going?" Dulio says, speaking in a kind tone. "The church's most gentle child. Hello, Dulio's son. I'm doing well." She smiled kindly in return, but then turned serious. "It seems that you were also called." Dulio says, "Yes. Why do you think they called us?" "Do you know why?" "Well, no," Griselda says. "Then let's find out, shall we?" Dulio enters. As he reaches the office, "You what?" As she felt a pause that seemed to reduce her energy level, causing to stop leaning on the wall. Griselda said, "What happened? You seem tired," looking back at her. "Nothing. It was nothing," Griselda said, though she spoke with a tired voice. Not convinced, but decided not to push the subject. "Come on, it is not good to make Michael-sama wait," as we begin to knock on the door. "You're right," straightening herself up, a little more energized than before, Griselda was. "Who is it?" Michael said, speaking from the other side of the door. "Michael-sama, it is Dulio and Griselda. You called for use changing the more respectful tone." "Enter," speaking in a serious tone, Michael says. Both looked at each other, a bit surprised by Michael's tone of voice, and entered the room where they saw Michael with a serious look directed towards them while seated from his desk. "Michael-sama, what's the matter?" Slightly sweating from the situation. "Please have a seat," Michael said. They both swallowed nervously at the immense aura that Michael was expelling. Neither of them said anything and just sat down. "Do you know why you're here?" Michael says. "No," Michael-sama, still nervous, both of them said. "Well, I have some questions, and you will answer yes or no. Understood?" Michael said. "Yes," Dulio and Griselda replied. Michael says, and continues. "First, Dulio, have you been seeing the damage done to heaven and earth from the war?" Michael says. "Yes," Michael-sama, quickly answering him. Second, Griselda, is it true that these past few weeks you have not left heaven? "Yes, Michael-sama, she was nervous as she was supposed to have doing something but was not informed." Griselda, in these weeks, have you noticed something strange in Gabriel? Michael says. He turned to her with a deadly look. Griselda remained silent, not knowing how to respond. Michael-sama, what's happening? Why do you ask these things? Dulio said. Dulio, wait your turn to respond, releasing tremendous pressure, but maintaining his gaze on Griselda. Dulio remained silent upon feeling the pressure that Michael was emitting. Griselda, answer your question, Michael said. Yes, lowering her head in resignation. What are these weird things? Michael said. Well, about 11 days ago, she went to see Irina, and after that she began to disappear without a trace. And when she returned, she did not say much, only that Irina is fine, though she had a weird look on her face as if it was bumping about. And why hadn't you informed me about this? Michael said. She told me not to say anything and not to worry. When I asked if I could accompany her, since she was only seeing Irina and the girls, she did not need protection, Griselda said. I see, Michael says, as he stopped expelling aura. So both of you know what the fallen dragon is, correct? Isn't that a dragon if betrayed and that can die from this? With a finger on his chin, Dulio said. Why do you ask this? Griselda said. She became completely white. No, it can't be, Griselda says. Fast as always. What do you think happened? Michael says. But it's not possible. Incredulous of what she's hearing, Griselda says. Well, it's possible. I didn't believe it, but it's true, Michael says. I'm missing out on something, Dulio replied, looking at both of them without understanding their actions. Well, what I'm about to show you and tell you cannot get out of here, okay? Michael says, as he took a crystal from the drawer of his desk and given to him by Ajuka. Understood, Dulio and Griselda says, becoming serious that Griselda was nervous and was about to see it. Well, prepare yourself because it's going to be long and complicated, Michael says, activating the crystal. After the explanation and review of the memories, and that's what happened, Michael said, with an emotionless tone. No, Griselda says as tears came out of her eyes. Dulio was speechless from what he just witnessed. As I said, this cannot be known to anyone. You will have a mission, maintaining a serious composure, Michael starts. What is it? Dulio says. He was serious about the task he was going to receive and steeled himself to prevent negative emotions from spilling out. Even though Michael tinkered with the system, a little test for the seraphs in the desk to not form sin. You were to watch Gabriel 24/7. And report any of her activities. I'm afraid she has been corrupted by the words of the devil. It is likely that Irina was too, Michael says. I understand, Dulio replied. And you, Griselda. He paused momentarily as Griselda just cried silently. Michael-sama, I will take my leave, Dulio said, understanding the situation and letting Griselda have her time as she witnessed her mistress, War, an apprentice to go to her faith. Standing up from chair, Dulia left the room to carry out his mission and sense for Gabriel's energy signature. Michael watched Dulio leave before he stood up from his desk and kneeled down next to Grishilda. "You know it's not your fault, right?" Michael said, speaking kindly to soothe the woman. But if I informed him, maybe, just maybe, as her sadness overcame her, silencing as the tears rolled over her eyes, Grishilda starts. "You do not have to worry about that," Michael says, putting his hand on her head and confirming surgery. "I would like to apologize to Issei," Grishilda said, feeling a bit better. "That will not be possible because he has left, and neither I nor the leaders know where he went. But hold your apology when he returns. There will be a meeting to discuss his absence." "I understand," Grishilda says. "Thank you, Michael-sama," as her tears stopped rolling down her face, feeling better than she was a few minutes ago. "No need to thank me. That's what I'm hoping for," showing her a gentle smile. "Michael-sama, I have a question. What do you plan to do at the meeting of the factions?" Grishilda says. "I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I do know that I have to expel Gabriel and Irina, but that, surely, it hurts me more than them." In a defeated tone, Michael is. "I have an idea," Grishilda, turning serious, possibly giving the two a chance to redeem themselves. "And what would that be?" Michael says. "Restart the system," Grishilda says. "What would that do?" Michael replies. "You put in a feature that would test the capabilities of what an angel can do and can't do." Seraphs look on their decks. Grishilda says, "Yes, that is correct. By restarting the system, we would not have the capability anymore, but it would prevent Gabriel and Irina from committing a sin because they could become fallen angels if they continued to indulge in those activities, which I don't think they would want," Grishilda says. "Yes, but I would have to speak with Raphael and Uriel, though Gabriel would be wondering what is happening," Michael says. "It's simple. If she or Irina asks, you can say that there is a bug in the system, which is true and not a lie, because the feature is a bug. If it allows angels to commit sin of adultery, then there is an issue." Grishilda says, "That could work, but I feel like there is more to this." Michael says, Yes, watching what Issei saw, I saw that there was alcohol involved with Azazel. I know that Valkyrie is a lightweight. She is likely to repent for drunken affairs, and that action may cause Gabriel and Irina to do the same and admit their sins to us themselves," Grishilda says. "So you are giving them the last chance of redemption. You are very kind," Michael says, giving her a smile. "It will be the last service as an angel to Lady Gabriel," Grishilda says. "And what of your ward? She and Azia will be affected by the restart as well," Michael says. "They have been led astray. I believe their mistress is the cause of this. If that out of experience is proven to be true, she is the culprit, and Zenobia and Azia listened to her words. She spoke coldly of Rias before letting out a sigh and speaking again in a calm tone. I know Irina, and looked up to Zenobia during their training because she was better swordsman and Azia is a kind soul. So if the two convinced Irina to commit these acts, it would not be a surprise to her mistress use Irina to convince Gabriel to join them as well, because we, angels, trust one another more than any other faction. Unfortunately, during my tenure with both of them, Irina and Lady Gabriel can be quite naive," Grishilda says. "Yes, that is true. I shall propose your idea to the other Seraphs, as we'll speak with Toji as well regarding his daughter," Michael says. "It is likely that he will take Irina away from that house filled with devils. I hope he takes Lady Gabriel with him as well. Maybe that Shido can restore their faith and lead them on the right path again. Though their time as angels is over. Better there than with Azazel," Grishilda says. "I do hope you're right about that," Michael says, looking solemnly in a distance, now in the Grigor in Shimazin's office. During the time that Dooley and Grishilda were called, Shimazin called for Armor, Shamanil, and Tamiel, while Barkil called in a slash dog who just finished a mission of investigating an abandoned Chaos Brigade base. "What have you called us for, Shamazi?" He was in the back of the researcher room for the Grigor, the Katri. Sharhal, he had black and white hair combed back, and he wore thick glasses and gold eyes in black business suit underneath a lab coat. Underneath this, he had bandages around his torso from his injuries in the Evil Dragon War. "Yes, and is Azazel, Pyomyan, and Barkil coming?" He was a muscular man, his physique similar to our aforementioned mentioned Barkil with a white beard. He had black hair and violet eyes, and wore armor helm and an eye patch over his left eye. The armor had a motif in an eagle hawk, and he kept at an ox and shield holstered on his back. He was also a researcher of anti-magic. Tamil stood off to the side, pondering what he could do the issue that the Khatris had been called in. He had blonde hair, green eyes, and wore a robe that had many ornaments. He was at the head of the business of the department regard business were going to be fine, so he believed that they called because of that. Wait a moment, Barkyul should be here shortly with our other guests, Shemazin said. The other three noticed that he only mentioned Barkyul, but not Azazel nor Pyarmain, but they remained silent. A moment later, the door opened and Vice Governor General Barkyul walked in with young 4 adults. Sorry for the late arrival. I had to catch them before they got too relaxed, Barkyul said, gesturing to the 4 people that came with him. Sorry we couldn't look more presentable, but Barkyul said it was urgent. He was a man that had short black hair. It was Tobio. Wore 3 sheep piece and just a vest. They were slightly ragged since they had to come close for a mission. He was a wielder of the Longinus, Canis Lacton, which was a small black dog that was of his legs. He was only Longinus wielder to fully master his dog. Yes, Leviathan says, but I assume we get to report findings. Is that correct? Shimazin-sama, she was beautiful blonde that had large breasts that were combined with the richest outfits that she could wear with a witch hat. She was the wielder of a Longinus, absolute demise. Yes and no. But I guess you could start off with that, nonchalant to hear the report, so he could move on to the task at hand. Koichi starts. We found nothing. He was brash, young man with brown hair, who wore a similar suit to Tobio's with black jacket, but there is a vest. Usi untucked with a few buttons were undone and show a little of his chest. On his shoulder was a small white cat. It was his independent sacred gear that was one of his 4 fiends. It was held spiritual of To, feared of ignorance that could relate to a large amount of electricity. However, the cat was named Byashicha by Koki. Now, Natsumi. Must you be so brash about it? What he means is that his base was empty. Either remnants of the Chaos Brigade came back for it, or someone beat us and cleaned the place. Shimazin-sama, another beauty like Leviathan, but she was brunette. She was also a busty with large breasts, but she could not tell because of her clothing was more constricting and it made her breasts look smaller than they appear to be. She wore what to be considered a school uniform that consisted of a black skirt that reached mid-thigh, with matching black top with white highlights in the side. The top had blue sleeves that were full-sleeved and wore black thigh socks. On her shoulder was a hawk. This was her independent sacred gear like Koki's, my bad. It was the other 4 friends. It held spirit of origami, the field of deviousness that had the power to manipulate wind. The hawk named Grithith by Natsumi holstered her hip was light last gun that was similar to ones used by the exorcists of church, but this one was castricized by the fallen angels of the Gagar. I see. And where is the rest of your team, Shimazin, since he noticed the 2 members were not here? Oh, Setsun and Shogunin stayed at the bar to look after in our absence. Did you need them to be here? Tobio says, no, that's fine. You can update them after the briefing, and to answer your question, Armos, this meeting has to do with Azazel and Pyarmain. It made Barkyul grimace when hearing those names, and the action didn't go unnoticed by the others, but only Shimazin knew why Barkyul acted like that. What did they do? Tamiel said with a serious tone. It was nothing like Shimazin to accuse Azazel nor Pyarmain of something. I'll show you, Shimazin said, as he produced a hologram cam that he had snuck into Azazel's lab after he had this meeting with Issei. On a holographic screen, the others saw Azazel, but he was naked and passed out. But also a woman with long purple hair and large breasts. It was Pyarmain, and she was half naked as well. She was near Azazel. There was another naked woman with long silver hair and large breasts, but not as big as Pyarmain's breasts. That was Ross Visa, the rook of the Grimory's Barrage. She was a little off to the side. The others could see that there was some white substance around the lab and on Pyarmain and Ross's bodies. What the hell is this? Armos says, turning toward Shimazin, who remained calm. That is the betrayal of our former Governor General against the pillar of the factions, Shimazin said. So he used alcohol to seduce them? Tamiel says as he gestured bottles of alcohol that were in the room. I wouldn't say so. In regards to Pyarmain, I noticed her getting closer to Azazel, and he was amping up his flirtations towards her. I guess she wanted comfort with someone, since Issei was in a coma. But did she inform him of this relationship? As for the Valkyrie, she is known to be a lightweight. Odin Dona would be a joke about it with Azazel. I knew she came to the upgrades to her wand, and Azazel seemed adamant about working with her, Shamazu says. Sharil says. So they must have gotten those upgrades, and to celebrate, Azazel bought in alcohol using her weakness that Odin Dono indirectly gave him, Tamiel says. No. Shariel says. Azazel witnessed it. When they were in Kyoto, he laughed about it, so he was aware, but I guess Odin Dono probably gave more information than attended. When they were at those titty bars, and Azazel told him about how she acted when she was drunk, Shariel says. No matter. The Sekiryuutei has the other woman, right? Tamil says. I mean, Barkil, your daughter is with him, Tamil says again, turning to the aforementioned, but they saw a downcast look on his face. I think I should show you what we witnessed. You see, a couple days ago, Barkil and I were called by Surzex that Issei wanted to meet with us, so we went over. However, Issei-kun's condition didn't look so good. It was as if he was dying. He looked so pale, Shamazi said. The woman in the room let out a gasp as they thought of Issei dying. One because she saw him like a brother, as she did this with his rival. The other was a super fan of his show, developing a bit of a crush on him. What enemy could put the Red Dragon Emperor in a dying state, Koki said, with his brash nature, not believing that Issei could have been defeated so easily. The only one who could match him was Volley, since they're rivals. Oh, he has something to do with it, Shemazu said, as he produced crystals similar to Michael. Let me show you. Tobiel and Leviathan had a sense of dread. When they heard that Volley had something to do with his condition, it caused Levina to grab Tobiel's hand and squeeze it. Tobiel looked down and rubbed her hand to soothe her, but also comfort herself. Natsumi's eyes widened and Koki actually shut up for once. The other catchers narrowed their eyes as they wanted to know what caused this. Shemazin activated the crystal, and all in the office began to watch Issei's memories. That showed that he felt he experienced the betrayal of those who he thought loved him. By the end of it, Leviathan and Natsumi were brought to tears. Tobia was in shock. Griga gritted his teeth and clenched his fish. Armos was seething in rage. Shahil felt a headache coming from, as did Tamil, but Tamil did go over to Barkil and place a hand on his shoulder. I'm going to kill that bastard, Armos says, preparing to go and rip apart Azazel. He deserves to pay, Koki said, smashing his fist on Shima's desk, who was still calm. None of you will do anything, Shamazi says, as the other's eyes widen in shock except Barkil's. What? You expect us to do nothing? Koki says. Have you gone mad, Shamazi? Armos says. Koki, you should calm down, Natsumi says. Her tone was low, but he still heard her, even though she was facing the floor. Calm down? You'd be pissed too, bird brain. I thought you liked the guy. You're going to let those bitches get away with this? This only caused more tears to run her face on the drip of the floor. Normally she would argue back, but she couldn't. Her heart was aching as she felt like it would jump out of her chest. She began to shake and then it began to hyperventilate and she collapsed, and Griffith flew on the floor onto the perch and was in the office. Natsumi, Tobio says. He was holding on to Leviathan, who was trembling Natsumi's collapse, and Tobio's yell caused Armos and Koki to lose their anger. Shariel went to check on her, although he did gingerly because of his own injuries. She seems alright, though it seems she fainted from emotional distress, Sabriel says. Here's what's going to happen, Shamsa said as he stood up from the desk. We're not going to do anything from now. Let me explain, as he saw how Koki and Armos were going to speak out again. Now, there is going to be a meeting with all the factions to discuss what we're going to do about them, but also to discuss another issue. As you see, Rizavin's body has gone missing, Shimahazi said, causing everyone's eyes to widen. You gotta be kidding me. You think he could be alive, Tamil says? I also thought Fafnir killed him and used his soul to release the beast. We all did. But his body is missing. There's a possibility of him being alive. Unless someone took the body, we would have to check with Hades to find his soul. Now back to the matter. I propose exile for those that betrayed the Pillar of the Alliance. According to Surzex, he had dispersed his Oppai Dragon money among them. I guess it's the last act of kindness to them. However, the reason for exile is because of their exploits in the war, which wouldn't warrant death. So exile is the next option. In addition, Armos, you are researching anti-magic, so begin developing what will render them useless. Sharheel, you helped construct a device that helped insert remaining sacred gear pieces that constrained Vatra's soul. I will need you to reverse engineer that device. Don't let Azazel nor Palme know about them. From the meeting with Issei, Vatra was quite displeased with his carrier, so if you were able to reverse the device function to extract the sacred gear, we'll propose this idea to Vatra. The reason for this is because his carrier has been captured, and will be on trial during the meeting that is coming up in a few weeks. I'll make sure that those seals are up to par, Almost says. I'll get right on it, Sarhill says. It's a good thing that I kept the blueprints for that device. Who knows if Zabel would have tried to extract the sacred gear from Issei. I knew that he was envious of Issei having Gabriel's love, so I can see that this is his revenge, Sarhill says. Yes, well, I also stole the notes that were made by Sanatel, our former brother. I made a copy and gave it to Issei before he departed. I believe it may help him if he were to encounter another sacred gear users, Samasi said. Departed? To where? Tamil replies. Is Issei okay? I'd like to apologize for what Vikan did to him. I thought he was happy with Genbu, Leviath says. Shazaku and Genbu was volley yesterday at their clan meeting, Tobio said. Don't comfort her. We do not know. We do not want to raise any of their suspicions. And by the way, Tamil, get those 2 guards that escorted Issei to Azazel's laboratory. I don't want them to tell that Issei came by. Let them think that we do not know of their affair, so try to act normal. Also, they will be informed of the meeting. They will also not be informed of the meeting. As for Issei's whereabouts, I do not know where he is, but I was informed that he was performed a ritual that would prevent him from dying. I know he survived the ritual because I was told he extracted the pawn pieces from his body and transported them back to the mouse. I do not know when he will return, but he is training. Tobio informed the rest of your team, and you can let her know that Issei is alright. When she wakes up, gesturing the unconscious Natsumi. If Azazel or Volley visits, try to act normal, and do not blame Byoko or Arthur Pentadragon. They did not know of their team's actions, so be civil with them, Shamasi says. Alright, Shamasi says, we'll listen to your plan. Calming his anger, get the trash off the screen, referring to the camera that was showing Azazel's laboratory. Tell me, does Issei hate us for what they did? Tamil says. He asked this because if Issei did hate him, it would make their business plummet. Because if Issei was influential in the supernatural world, so he did worried about what could happen. No, after the meeting, he stayed with the Gremory clan. In fact, I heard also considered them his partners, so he holds no ill will towards them for their actions, as Tamil let out a sigh of relief. We'll take our leave, Kyoko. You have to carry her. It's partially your fault as she fainted when she wakes up. Apologize, she gestured towards Natsumi, who was in Sahil's arms at the moment, garring the brash young man to follow his order, apologizing to their teammate. Yeah, I know, Koki said, watching over to pick up his drowned teammate from Sahil. Well, I shall take my leave, Shamizu said. I will update you on the progress on the device that you have made to distract Azazel, so it does not disturb me or to find out what I'm working on, Sahil says. I understand, Shamizu says. And that is where we're going to stop for now. So, basically, I apologize for taking so long for this next part to get out. It was my birthday and I wanted to take a little bit of a break before I finally came back to the grind officially. That as well as I was definitely stressed out. For some reason, I keep waking up in the middle of the night, like more than one time. I'm not exactly sure what it is at this point. But I was definitely stressed. I'm not sure what, I feel like I'm quite aware, but I don't want to admit it to myself. It's that drenched feeling, you know what I mean? I wake up every time, I'm like, oh God, I don't want that to happen. But, yeah, so thanks so much for the support, guys. Like, I cannot thank you enough. Remember to go subscribe to my second channels, my second channel, and Popowski and Fallen DXD. We're about to hit 60,000 on there, and we're pushing 40K on Spartanic. So thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate it. If we could hit 500, 600 likes on this video, that would be absolutely amazing. Shout out to all my balance breakers and Ultra Instinct members and limit breakers. I really do appreciate you. Once again, thank you to everybody who came on stream. I really do appreciate it. Shout out to the author, by the way. Skimreader07. I know he's going through some trouble right now, as I said at the beginning of the video, so go show him some love, because he's definitely irritated right now. So go, show him, go read a story, on Wattpad and whatnot. This is the story that I'm reading right now. It's called The Red Conquer, by the way. The link is always in the description. So thank you so much for the support, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, Spartanic Arts DXD out.